How to stop worrying about things you can't control. Stoic mindset. Have you ever noticed how a single worry can take over an entire day? You wake up thinking about it. You carry it to work. You think about it during lunch. It follows you home. It sits beside you while you eat dinner. Then it lies beside you in bed while you stare at the ceiling wondering what will happen next. For many people, this is not an occasional experience. It is a daily routine. A young man once lived this way. Every morning, before his feet touched the floor, his mind was already racing. He worried about money. He worried about his future. He worried about whether people respected him. He worried about mistakes he had made years ago. He worried about opportunities he had not yet received. Most of all, he worried about things he could not predict. His mind never rested. One day, after another sleepless night, he decided to visit an elderly mentor who was known throughout the town for his calm and steady nature. No matter what happened around him, this old man seemed peaceful. The young man arrived at the mentor's small home and immediately began explaining his problems. "I'm worried about everything," he admitted. "I worry about my career. I worry about what people think of me. I worry about making mistakes. I worry about losing what I have. I worry about things that haven't even happened yet." The old man listened carefully. When the young man finished speaking, the mentor smiled and said, "Come with me." Without explaining why, he led the young man to a nearby river. The water moved steadily across smooth stones. Birds sang from the trees above. Everything seemed peaceful except for the young man's restless mind. The mentor pointed toward the river. "What do you see?" he asked. "A river," the young man replied. The mentor nodded. "Can you stop it from flowing?" "No." "Can you control where every drop of water goes?" "No." "Can you command the weather that feeds it?" "No." The mentor smiled again. "Then why do you spend your life trying to control everything else?" The young man remained silent. The old man picked up a small stick and drew 2 circles in the dirt. Inside the first circle he wrote the word control. Inside the second circle he wrote the word concern. Then he said something the young man would never forget. "Most people spend their lives focused on the second circle when they should be focused on the first." The mentor explained that the first circle contained everything directly under the young man's control. His actions. His effort. His choices. His discipline. His attitude. His character. The second circle contained everything else. Other people's opinions. Future events. Unexpected obstacles. Economic conditions. Luck. Circumstances. The problem was obvious. The young man spent nearly all his energy inside the second circle. Every day he worried about outcomes instead of actions. He worried about being successful instead of improving his skills. He worried about being liked instead of being kind. He worried about winning instead of preparing. He worried about the future instead of living in the present. The mentor looked directly into his eyes. "You are trying to command the river." For a moment, the young man felt uncomfortable because he knew it was true. He had spent years trying to control things beyond his reach. No wonder he felt exhausted. The mentor continued. "Imagine carrying 2 buckets every day. One bucket contains things you can control. The other contains things you cannot. Most people ignore the first bucket and spend their lives struggling with the second." The young man thought about this carefully. The old man wasn't saying that goals were unimportant. He wasn't saying that planning was useless. He wasn't saying that outcomes didn't matter. Instead, he was teaching something deeper. Focus on the process. Release your attachment to the outcome. The mentor then told the young man a story. There was once an archer who wanted to become the best in the kingdom. Every day he practiced for hours. His aim improved. His technique improved. His confidence improved. But whenever he entered a competition, he became nervous. Why? Because he stopped focusing on the shot and started focusing on the result. He worried about winning. He worried about losing. He worried about what the crowd would think. He worried about embarrassing himself. His attention left the target and became trapped inside his fears. The mentor paused. One day, a teacher told him something remarkable. The young man leaned closer. The teacher said, "Your job is not to control the score. Your job is to release the arrow as skillfully as possible." Everything changed. The archer stopped obsessing over victory. Instead, he concentrated on preparation. He focused on breathing. He focused on posture. He focused on technique. He focused on what he could control. Ironically, this made him perform better than ever before. The mentor looked at the young man and said, "Life works exactly the same way. Many people become anxious because they are obsessed with results. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want complete control. But life offers none of these things." The Stoics understood this truth thousands of years ago. They recognized that peace comes from mastering yourself, not mastering the world. As the sun began to set, the mentor picked up a small stone and tossed it into the river. The water rippled outward before returning to its natural flow. "Look closely," he said. "The river adjusts to every obstacle it encounters. It does not complain. It does not panic. It does not resist reality. It adapts." The young man watched the water carefully. For the first time, he understood. His anxiety wasn't being caused by life itself. It was being caused by his resistance to uncertainty. He wanted guarantees where none existed. He wanted control where none was possible. He wanted certainty in an uncertain world. The mentor smiled. "When you focus on what you can control, life becomes simpler." That evening, the young man returned home with a different perspective. The problems in his life had not disappeared. His responsibilities were still there. His challenges remained. His future was still uncertain. But something inside him had changed. For the first time, he understood where his true power existed. Not in controlling events. Not in controlling people. Not in controlling outcomes. But in controlling himself. Years later, whenever worry appeared, he would ask himself one simple question. Is this within my control? If the answer was yes, he acted. If the answer was no, he let it go. This single habit transformed his life. And it can transform yours as well. Every day, the world will present you with reasons to worry. Unexpected events will happen. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Opportunities will come and go. But remember the lesson of the river. You do not have to control everything. You only need to control your response. That is where strength begins. That is where peace begins. That is where the Stoic mindset begins. There was once a successful merchant who believed that if he planned carefully enough, worked hard enough, and avoided mistakes, life would unfold exactly as he wanted. For many years, everything seemed to support this belief. His business grew. His reputation improved. His income increased. People respected him. Whenever something went wrong, he found a way to fix it. Gradually, he began to think he was in complete control of his life. Then one year, everything changed. A sudden economic crisis struck his city. Customers disappeared. Profits fell. Several trusted partners abandoned him. Within months, the future he had carefully built seemed to be collapsing. The merchant was devastated. Every morning he woke up angry. Every evening he went to sleep frustrated. He constantly repeated the same words. This shouldn't be happening. Life had given him a reality he did not want, and he spent all his energy fighting against it. Weeks turned into months. His situation improved very little. Not because solutions were unavailable, but because he was trapped in resistance. Instead of adapting to reality, he was arguing with reality. One afternoon, exhausted and discouraged, he visited an old philosopher who was known for his wisdom. After listening patiently, the philosopher asked a simple question. "Tell me, what exactly are you fighting?" The merchant immediately answered. "My circumstances." The philosopher shook his head. "No." The merchant looked confused. "What do you mean?" The philosopher replied quietly. "You are not fighting your circumstances. You are fighting the fact that your circumstances exist." The room became silent. For the first time, The merchant considered the possibility that his greatest enemy was not the crisis itself. His greatest enemy was his refusal to accept that the crisis had already happened. The philosopher continued. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm and shouting at the sky. Will your anger stop the rain? No, the merchant admitted. Will complaining change the weather? No. Then why do you believe complaining will change reality? The merchant had no answer. For months he had been mentally fighting something that could not be changed. The past had already happened. The situation already existed. Reality was already present. His resistance accomplished nothing except increasing his suffering. This lesson lies at the heart of Stoicism. The Stoics taught that suffering often comes from the gap between reality and our expectations. We create a picture of how life should unfold. Then reality presents something different. Instead of adapting, we resist. We say things like, "This shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have treated me this way. I shouldn't be facing this challenge. My life should be easier." But reality does not negotiate. Reality simply is. The sooner we accept this truth, the sooner we regain our strength. Acceptance is one of the most misunderstood ideas in Stoicism. Many people think acceptance means giving up. They think it means becoming passive. They think it means allowing bad situations to continue. But Stoic acceptance means something entirely different. Acceptance means seeing reality clearly before deciding how to respond. Imagine a doctor treating a patient. Before offering treatment, the doctor must first accept the diagnosis. Ignoring the illness does not help. Denying the illness does not help. Arguing with the illness does not help. The doctor begins by acknowledging what is true. Only then can effective action follow. Life works exactly the same way. When we refuse to accept reality, we lose access to wisdom. When we accept reality, we gain the ability to respond intelligently. The philosopher invited the merchant to walk through a nearby forest. As they walked, they came across a large oak tree. The philosopher pointed toward it. "Look at that tree." The merchant nodded. "What do you notice?" "It is strong." "Yes," said the philosopher. "But why is it strong?" The merchant looked carefully. The tree's branches moved with the wind. They bent. They adjusted. They flowed with the forces around them. Then the philosopher explained. The tree survives because it cooperates with reality. It does not demand that the wind stop blowing. The merchant finally understood. For months he had been demanding that reality become something it was not. He wanted the storm to disappear. He wanted the crisis to vanish. He wanted life to return to the way it used to be. But while he was busy wishing for a different reality, he was neglecting the reality he actually had. The Stoics often practiced something called voluntary acceptance. Whenever difficulty arrived, they would remind themselves, "This is part of life." Not because they enjoyed hardship. Not because they welcomed suffering. But because they understood that resisting reality only creates additional pain. Think about your own life. How many worries are fueled by resistance? Perhaps you wish someone had treated you differently. Perhaps you regret a decision from years ago. Perhaps you are angry about circumstances you cannot change. Perhaps you are waiting for reality to match your expectations before allowing yourself to feel peace. The Stoics would challenge this approach. They would ask, why postpone peace? Why wait for life to become perfect? Why allow circumstances to control your state of mind? The truth is that peace becomes available the moment you stop arguing with reality. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As an emperor, he faced wars, betrayals, political conflict, disease, and countless hardships. Yet he constantly reminded himself to accept events as they arrived. Not because they were pleasant, but because they were real. And reality is always the starting point for wisdom. The philosopher and merchant eventually returned to town. Before they parted ways, the philosopher offered one final lesson. Whenever life gives you something you did not expect, ask yourself this question. What is it? Asked the merchant. The philosopher smiled. Now that this has happened, what is the best response available to me? The merchant repeated the question several times. It seemed simple. Yet it changed everything. Notice how different this question is from the questions most people ask. Most people ask, "Why me? Why did this happen? When will this go away?" The Stoic asks, "What can I do now?" One mindset creates helplessness. The other creates strength. Over the following months, the merchant gradually rebuilt his life. The economy remained difficult. Challenges continued. Success did not return overnight. But his attitude transformed. He stopped fighting reality. He started working with it. He stopped wishing for a different past. He started building a better future. And with each passing day, he felt lighter. Not because life became easier, but because he finally stopped carrying the unnecessary burden of resistance. This is one of the greatest secrets of the Stoic mindset. Reality does not become easier when you reject it. Reality becomes easier when you accept it. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is wisdom. Acceptance is the courage to face life exactly as it is. Acceptance is the foundation of resilience. And acceptance is often the first step toward genuine peace. The next time life presents an unexpected challenge, remember the lesson of the oak tree. Bend. Adapt. Adjust. Do not waste your strength fighting the wind. Use your strength to move through it. That is how Stoics remain calm when others panic. That is how they remain strong when others break. And that is how you can stop worrying about things you cannot control. If you're enjoying these Stoic lessons and want more wisdom that can help you build inner peace, mental strength, and emotional resilience, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join our growing community. Your journey toward a calmer and stronger mind is only beginning.